In early 2023, I published the video No Virus is International, which outlined some of the no virus work going on in different countries across the world. Those who were watching at that time may recall that our colleagues in India were publicly exposing the COVID-19 fraud. This included the advancement of a legal precedent against the so-called authorities in India. Well, these no-virus friends were recently in touch with us, and I am pleased to be able to give you an update on some new developments. By way of public interest litigation, a petition was successfully brought before the High Court in order to obtain evidence for not only the existence of viruses, but also for evidence that microbes can cause disease. The video of the hearing picked up a significant amount of attention in India. So let's see what happened in court and how this work continues to gain traction. In 2022, my husband Mark and I, along with 18 other international doctors and scientists, signed the Settling the Virus debate statement. The statement challenged the virologists to provide a demonstration that the so-called virus detection techniques even have internal consistency when they are done in a blinded and scientific manner. If not, all the claims about detecting alleged viruses should be abandoned. On the other hand, if the virologists did succeed in this first task, then they would be invited to obtain and purify viral particles directly from an alleged host organism. Those that know about the problems with virology will appreciate that they have not been able to get past these steps. In any case, included in that list of Settling the Virus debate signatories were 3 of our colleagues in India. One was Jitendra Banjara, and we will get to his latest efforts soon. My 2023 No Virus is International video focused on the efforts going on in India to expose the unscientific claims surrounding SARS-CoV-2 and the alleged COVID-19 pandemic. The team also took the opportunity to challenge the validity of germ theory, and here is a flashback to that time. Much of the overall strategy from our Indian colleagues has been to focus on the legal aspects of COVID-19 in their country. For example, under the Indian Evidence Act 1872, the burden of proof is on the government to establish the existence of the alleged SARS-CoV-2 virus in human samples and its pathogenicity with that sample. It has become clear that, like virologists around the world, the Indian medical authorities cannot deliver the evidence with any papers that follow the scientific method. The conclusion from our Indian colleagues in their politely worded statement: this is nothing but a serious medical experiment which is likely a crime against humanity, and this act clearly shows that health authorities may have no intention of public health and welfare of citizens of India. And while the highest level institution, the Indian Council of Medical Research, claimed they have proof of existence of SARS-CoV-2, they have yet to provide any document to back this up. Hence, a demand letter is now being sent to them, as well as the National Institute of Virology and various politicians. It calls on them to provide a public demonstration showing the existence of a virus. They've even opened it up further and have suggested that the demonstration could involve providing the evidence for any alleged disease-causing microbe. In India, like everywhere else in the world, there was no basis to a COVID-19 pandemic. The case numbers were generated by the inappropriate use of molecular detection tests, such as the PCR, and the team pointed out the obvious flaws to the Indian Council of Medical Research. Secondly, regarding the PCR-RT-PCR, we already showed in our open legal notice why and how the test is totally irrelevant for the purpose, and it's a misuse of this test that is being used for the alleged COVID-19 pandemic purpose. However, you could not clarify our inquiry in your response. Additionally, we also present herewith excerpts of the laboratory experiment conducted by Dr. Biswarup Roy Chaudhary and his team to validate the government-approved RT-PCR test for COVID-19. Excerpts. Recently, from June 15th to the 17th, 2022, I and my medical team conducted an experiment wherein we took some fruits, some vegetables, and some animals like rabbit and dog, and a few birds like chicken and pigeon. We collected samples of each of them and went to a government-authorised COVID test laboratory to run them through the test to understand which of the samples are COVID positive and which of them are COVID negative. Dr. Biswa Roy Chowdhury demonstrated and explained the invalid and irrelevant usage of RT-PCR test kit to detect the unclear nucleic acid and proved that the RT-PCR testing is non-specific for the purpose of diagnosis. And finally, with no scientific material forthcoming from the Indian medical authorities, the No Virus team charged them to carry out the required experiments to provide evidence for SARS-CoV-2 or any of the viruses claimed to exist. Now it is your responsibility to prove your claim via practical demonstration. You have claimed in your response that you can prove practically the existence of the alleged SARS-CoV-2 virus or disease-causing viruses. Therefore, we are eager to participate and witness your practical demonstration, as it is the only way to prove your claim. Fast forward to 2026, and with no scientific evidence coming from the various Indian authorities, there has been a significant development. In February this year, the tenacious scientist Jitendra Banjara presented a petition to the High Court in India requesting evidence for both the existence of viruses and the germ theory of disease. If we look at the list of respondents, we see that it includes not only the Union of India itself, but the Director General of the Indian Council of Medical Research, the Director of the National Institute of Virology, and the Director for the National Centre for Disease Control. In other words, all the big names from whom the public would expect to have the required evidence on hand. After all, these are the organisations and individuals that push lockdowns, vaccines, pharmaceuticals, and various other measures in their apparent war against microbes. The introduction of the petition reads as follows. By way of this public interest litigation, the petitioner is hereby seeking direction from this Honourable Court to direct the concerned respondents to immediately provide substantial evidence and perform real-time practical demonstrations to prove the claimed particles are real physical entities as disease-causing particles called viruses, that living microorganisms, i.e. bacteria, fungus, protozoa, nematodes and others, cause disease. Furthermore, the reality of immunity and immunisation as per the claim and narrative of medical microbiology respectively. The germ theory of disease is the base of inhuman national health policies and a waste of taxpayers' money, putting human life in danger in the name of prevention and control measures. Hence, absence of the proof of the germ theory of disease, the petitioners seek to direct the immediate shutdown of medical microbiology. We would certainly agree with our colleagues in India that medical microbiology in the mainstream format is a dangerous field that is used to promote vaccines, antibiotics, and the fair narratives of the germ hypothesis. The onus is on those claiming to have evidence for such things to show their hand, especially when most countries are propping it up with billions of dollars of taxpayer funds. And while Jitendra Banjara brought this to court as a lay litigant, when the judge asked about his background, he was able to report that he trained as a medical microbiologist and completed a master's in science in the discipline. For me personally, it is refreshing to even see this being talked about in a high court. I was in a high court last year, but that was to take back control of my bank accounts after the medical, quote, authorities' unlawful seizures. That's what can happen in New Zealand when you point out the COVID-19 fraud and lack of evidence for viruses. Indeed, we live in a place where exposing medico-pharma deception attracts suspensions and six-figure fines for doctors. In 2021, Mark helped produce a statement of claim that completely eviscerated the evidence for SARS-CoV-2 and the fake pandemic. However, the court in New Zealand did not permit the case to be heard. So it is great to see our friends in India successfully using the legal system to publicly challenge the fundamentals of the virus model, as well as the wider concepts of pathogens and germ theory. After Jitendra Banjara presented his petition to the High Court in February, the judge ordered that the counsel appearing for the respondent, Union of India, as well as for the respondents, state, pray for and are granted 4 weeks' time to file their replies in the matter. Well, 4 weeks came and went. All that was heard back was the following. In other words, as it stands, the petition and its claims against both the virus model and germ theory remain officially unrefuted in India. Now, our Indian friends are under no illusions here. They are well aware that it will probably continue to be business as usual for the Indian government and the medico-pharma industry cronies. However, the team are shining more light on this great deception and showing the public that the emperor has no clothes. When the officials were asked some straightforward questions, they were unable to provide the answers that are supposedly settled science. The good news is that the germ theory and no virus discussions have reached millions of people and are now starting to pop up in mainstream domains. For example, at a public event on the 2nd of March this year, Australian immunologist and Nobel laureate Peter Doherty expressed disbelief that members of the public had challenged him about the existence of viruses.
I was on social media a lot through COVID. I had more than 100,000 followers.
How'd that go for you?
You know, there were people who didn't believe viruses existed. And it was insane.
Did you engage? How did you see your responsibility as a scientist?
I tried for a while, but you find it's absolutely hopeless, and it's totally wearing. It's totally wearing. You can't do much about it. I've gone off social media completely. 'Cause it's all in my head.
I think about it over and over again. There was no evidence that Professor Doherty had read or understood the well-developed refutations of the virus model. Apparently, he became exhausted, even considering the possibility. But at least he's talking about it. People often ask us what is the best way to raise awareness about the virus and germ misconceptions that have resulted in the disasters of vaccines, dangerous drugs, and silly rituals such as face masks and lockdowns. I don't think there is any one answer to that question except to take the opportunities that present themselves. On this particular occasion, please share this video to spread what happened in India and help encourage a better way forward where more people are in peace with not only nature, but each other as well. If you enjoyed this video, please visit supportdrsam.com.